press, we thought it might be best if we combine these two things because according to Minnesota state law, and you'll hear it, that I issued an executive order several days ago dealing with the wildfires in northern Minnesota. State law requires that after that 5 days expires that we come in front of the Executive Council consisting of myself, the Attorney General, the State Auditor, Secretary of State Simon, and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, who I believe we have on virtually with us. And what we will do is we will hear from the experts and the leadership of the team on the ground of what's going on, and then we will vote on whether to extend that emergency for the next 30 days is the way it works with state law. So grateful you're all here. I now call the meeting of the Executive Council to order. As chair of the Executive Council, I've determined the requirements of Minnesota Statutes 13 Delta .021 have been met, and we can conduct this meeting via interactive technology. Because this emergency meeting is being conducted via interactive technology, all our votes will be counted with a roll call vote. On July 12, 2026, I issued Executive Order 2608, declaring a peacetime emergency and continuing assistance to communities impacted by wildfires in northern Minnesota. We now have a request from the Department of Public Safety and the Department of Natural Resources, who you will hear from both, to extend that peacetime emergency. As part of the request, officials from these agencies will provide a situation report and a briefing on the response effort in that area. I would add at this time, just as we were preparing in here, I had been in contact late last night with Ontario Premier Doug Ford. He just called back and his team made contact with this. We have, and you'll hear more details on this from Commissioner Cunningham, we have two groups of YMCA campers that were north of the border in remote areas where the fires are burning pretty heavily. Premier Ford said it looks like nighttime in Toronto this morning. The smoke was so heavy. But I am pleased to report that that the first group will be out in the next hour. They have been spotted, and the Canadian Air Force is assisting in the extraction. The second group of campers is on a sandbar in the middle, and they are safe at this time. It's going to take a little more because they're remote to get to them. Commissioner will update you. This information was in the last few minutes that we're getting, but I'm just going to stress my deep gratitude to Premier Ford, to the people of Canada, have always been there. It took one call, and over the night, all their forces were activated to go and rescue Minnesota campers from the Y. And that speaks volumes to our neighbors from Canada, our friends who've always been there. And I am just incredibly grateful that in conjunction with the incredible folks, with a thank you to our firefighters, to our teams that are out there, to all of the folks who are putting themselves at risk, that at this point in time we don't have any injuries, and the fires, while they continue to burn, are being monitored and attacked in a proper way. So with that, I think at this time recognize Bob Jacobson and Assistant Commissioner Cunningham from the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, followed by Commissioner Stroman and the Forestry Division Director Patty Thielen, to give us a little bit of background on this, present the request for the Emergency Executive Order 2608. I think I'll turn to Bob first.
All right, thank you, Governor. Governor, members of the Executive Council, others, welcome to the State Emergency Operations Center today. This facility has been used numerous times already for a variety of emergencies, disasters, and traumatic situations around the state of Minnesota. And we welcome you here today for this very important moment. Today, the State Emergency Operations Center is open with staff who are diligently working to support the response to the significant wildfires in northeastern Minnesota. And we assure you the state of Minnesota is in this fight together. I also want to echo the governor's comments. I want to thank our first responders, rescuers, including our firefighters and law enforcement, for their continued incredible work and their dedication through this. We also, Governor and members of the Executive Council, we appreciate you all being here today. We appreciate you convening this meeting and for giving us the opportunity to provide a briefing. With that, I will turn it over, I believe, to Commissioner Stroman for some brief comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacobson, Governor, Executive Council. Good morning. Again, I'm Sarah Stroman. I have the pleasure of serving as the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. We are Minnesota's Wildland Fire Agency. And with me is DNR Forestry Division Director Patty Thielen. We also have Mike Warnke, our Wildfire Administration Supervisor. He is here staffing the EOC for DNR. I want to provide a little bit of information on the current situation. There are currently 17 active fires burning in and around the Boundary Waters Canoe area wilderness. And 14 are outside, primarily burning in northern St. Louis County and Lake County. These fires appear to have been caused by a July 6th lightning storm event that passed over the area. Thus, collectively, these are known as the July lightning event, and it's currently covering about 55,000 acres. I want to note these fires have grown quickly, and the situation is very dynamic. Effective at 8 a.m. Tuesday, July 14th, the U.S. Forest Service closed all access to the Boundary Waters Canoe area wilderness and evacuated campers. There are also active evacuation orders and notices of pending evacuation in Lake and St. Louis counties for residences and business in close proximity to active wildfires. Specifically, their evacuations are happening along the Fernberg corridor and the Echo Trail outside of Ely. Those began yesterday morning. The weather conditions continue to be challenging. Extreme fire conditions continue in the Northeast with the past 3 days of red flag conditions prompted by extreme heat, dry conditions, in combination with very dry vegetation in the area. Information about all of the active fire events is being shared through one webpage on nciweb.wildfire.gov. That's INCIWEB.wildfire.gov. And when you go there, it's under the combined name of July 2026 Superior National Forest wildfires. This is the best place to find updated information, images, etc. I want to provide a little bit of information on the firefighting conditions and the response efforts that are ongoing. The firefighting environment is very challenging, as was noted. Difficult remote access, extremely dry vegetation, intense heat, and wind exacerbating conditions that firefighters are facing. Governor, you noted the smoke in Canada. We're seeing the same thing in Minnesota, and that smoke is going to continue to push south with the wind direction now. Having said that, Minnesota has a very sophisticated and experienced interagency wildfire response system. The fires are being managed in cooperation with multiple agencies, including those represented here, as well as the United States Forest Service, the National Park Service, and many local agencies. We also have close coordination with Canadian authorities, Governor, as you noted. Specifically responding to the July lightning event fires, we have more than 150 firefighters from state and federal agencies, primarily Minnesota DNR and U.S. Forest Service. We have 18 firefighting aircraft, and we have 4 National Guard helicopters. There is a Minnesota Incident Command System team, or MINIX team, managing 10 fires burning outside the Boundary Waters and northeast of Orr, Minnesota. And we have a National Incident Management Organization team, a NEMO team, that has arrived to provide strategic support, long-range planning, and they are managing fires inside the Boundary Waters. In addition, we have a complex incident management team that has been ordered to provide overall coordination and planning for all 17 fires in northern Minnesota, both inside and outside the BWCA. That team is on its way. They are expected to be in place on Thursday and take command of the situation on Friday. I want to cover a couple notes on safety. It is extremely important to remember that we remain in a very active fire environment. It's likely we will be at this for quite some time. We're asking everyone in the affected areas to exercise caution and heed safety messages. If you see a wildfire, get to a safe location, call 911. Do not try to suppress any fires yourself. It's important to leave that work to the professionals. Burning restrictions are in effect in Cook, Lake, and northern St. Louis counties, and it's important to remember that anything can spark a wildfire in these extreme conditions. It includes your yard equipment in dry grass or vegetation, trailer chains dragging on the ground, ATV use, and so it's important to be very careful if you are doing these activities. And then finally, areas near the wildfires are operating in a ready, set, go procedure for evacuation, so it's important that local residents pay attention and follow the instructions they are given by local authorities. I also want to note that while our focus today is on northeast Minnesota, we have dry conditions across the state. So we're keeping an eye on all parts of the state and need to consider that in our planning. Finally, I want to express great appreciation to our DNR wildland firefighters, our partners in the Minnesota Incident Command System, the National Guard, and other state, local, and national partners. They are dedicated professionals and they are doing their job extremely well in very difficult conditions. I also want to thank members of the public for their support of our firefighters and their responsiveness in heeding the safety warnings and evacuation orders. As a result of this, there have been no injuries, no loss of life. I'll just conclude by saying again, the situation is very dynamic, so this update is current as of this morning, but conditions will continue to change. And we greatly appreciate the Executive Council's consideration of extending the peacetime emergency so we can continue this important work for Minnesota.
Thank you, Commissioner. Maybe, Commissioners, before we go on, if there's any questions from the Executive Councils, Secretary Simon and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, I believe we can see you, but if you have anything, maybe I'll turn to the two folks in the room to start with. If there's any questions of Commissioner Schroman.
Yeah, you know, one of the things I saw was that we don't actually anticipate the fires to, thank you. I've seen reports that we don't anticipate the fires to actually go out probably till the snow in some parts of the boundary waters. Can you tell us how do we manage that, or what is that? What impact does that have?
Thank you, Auditor.
Yeah, that's a very good question, Auditor. The reality is that those fires within the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness are very remote areas. Our primary focus in wildfire response is to focus on life and property safety first and foremost. And so those fires that are in remote areas that are not threatening life or property, we can allow those to burn. We will monitor them very closely to make sure they do not pose safety threats, but because they are in remote, hard-to-reach areas, it is expected that, especially if they are in any fires in peat, that they may be for quite some time.
Attorney General.
Thank you, Governor. Can you share what the public can do to be helpful to this effort and what the public should maybe not do?
Yes, very important. The public can play a very huge role, number one, in preventing wildfire. So if you are a homeowner or a cabin owner in that wildland urban interface, there are things you can do around your home to manage vegetation, make sure that manage vegetation in a way that does not foster further fire spread. And then a number of things I mentioned right now, conditions if you are mowing, if you are using your ATV, if you have a trailer, making sure that you are doing those activities in ways that are not sparking wildfire in dry vegetation. As I said, if folks see a wildfire, they should absolutely call 911. Do not try to put out fires yourself. Things are spreading very quickly. The winds are very high. Our professionals will manage that. And then lastly, it's really important to follow orders, to pay attention to the fire conditions, especially if you are in one of those ready, set, go areas. Ready means you need to be ready. Set means you need to be prepared, like to move on a notice, and go means you get up and go. So it's very important that people are paying attention to those notices.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I would highlight on that, I understand how very difficult this is. Evacuation orders are always challenging, but I would remind folks it's for your safety, but it's also for the safety of the firefighters. If you stick around and put folks at risk, after these orders are given, it can cause immense problems. So I would ask everyone, I know how challenging this is to be asked to leave your property in the midst of all this, but it's absolutely critically important to protect everyone if we do so. Secretary Simon, any question?
No, Governor.
Thank you for joining us. Lieutenant Governor?
No, Governor, I just express immense gratitude to the first responders, to the DNR, and to all of those who are managing through this difficult situation. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we'll turn to Assistant Commissioner Cunningham for an update on the public safety side of things.
Thank you, Governor. Members of the Executive Council, all those in attendance today. Thank you also for this opportunity to share a piece of our continuing efforts at the Department of Public Safety and the State Emergency Operations Center. My name is John Cunningham, and I serve as the Assistant Commissioner of Emergency Services for the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. Unfortunately, recent history informs us that every year wildfires in our state, neighboring communities, and across our country are not only possible, but they are near certain. As the DNR noted, we are currently actively fighting wildfires that are growing in northern Minnesota. These are very unprecedented, especially during this time of the year. Here at DPS and at HSCM, we work with our local, state, federal, and tribal partners throughout the year for emergencies such as this. We help to gather and share information with counties and jurisdictions across the state to support the planning, preparedness, and response to large-scale disasters and emergencies. The State Emergency Operations Center was activated on Monday in correspondence with your executive order, and will remain activated to continue supporting resource coordination, situational awareness, and information sharing among local, state, tribal, and federal partners. In addition to regular briefings and information sharing, the state EOC is here to help coordinate any requests for these efforts in supporting our partners. As we have seen in these fires, we will also help coordinate with our Canadian partners, Governor, as you mentioned earlier. And then as we speak, I'm still getting updates on this rescue mission. I will also add, in addition to the mission that's happening, it's roughly about 175 miles, north of our borders for this rescue mission that's ongoing currently. But over the evening, St. Louis County Rescue, in addition with our state partners and federal agencies, we're able to actually go into the boundary waters and rescue another group of campers that were also stuck in the kind of Canadian Minnesota border. So we're very thankful that most of those campers are now out. There's another 4 campers that are actually being escorted out by guides with that private partner-public relationship that we have. So additional DPS support includes assistance from the Minnesota State Patrol. Our division's flight resources are being used to help monitor the fires, giving important information to those responders who need it the most. The Minnesota Air Rescue Team, which is called MART, is staged and at the ready to assist with any rescues that may be needed in northern Minnesota or throughout the state. Our State Patrol troopers have been working at the onset to help law enforcement partners with any evacuations or road closures. Our State Fire Marshal Division is partnering with the Minnesota Incident Command System, as the Commissioner noted, providing staging manager area support and assistance, coordinating the deployment of dozens of firefighters across Minnesota to help provide structural protection and firefighting support. Also, while we carry out these current priorities that have been laid out by all those here today and continuing to support our local emergency managers, we know that communities will need us beyond just today, and history tells us that. Even while we work to assist our northern communities, we continue to help Minnesota counties hit hard in the last month by severe storms and flooding, including Becker, Crow Wing, Fillmore, Houston, Malvern, Winona. While working to support the wildfire response, we are also working with local emergency managers and recovery efforts in those areas. These high heat and dry conditions and the continued growth of these extremely dangerous wildfires in northern Minnesota, they continue to pose a significant threat to our state. The continuation of the peacetime emergency provides additional tools and resources to assist our public safety partners, including our first responders, our firefighters, our emergency managers, and those actively assisting on the front lines. If needed, our State Emergency Operations Center through HSCM will work through the Emergency Management Assistance Compact, or EMAC, to request additional support from across the United States. So we have that at the ready if we need it from our state partners. The State Emergency Operations Center, Governor, will remain engaged and continue to support the coordination of resources and interagency coordinations as conditions warrant. I appreciate your consideration for the entire council and Governor for extending the peacetime emergency. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Assistant Commissioner. And I would note a huge thank you to your team. I know it was into the early morning hours last night as we were talking about this, and to those families out there, I always need to be very careful I don't get ahead of our team on this, but communicating with Premier Ford, the families of those campers are living through anguish right now, wondering where they're at. And I said I speak from personal experience on this, getting information as quickly as possible on your loved ones in this situation, and the news couldn't have been better this morning. Again, we won't rest until they're back in Minnesota, but as we explained, sometime in the next hour, the first group will be out, and then shortly after that, in the next few hours, we'll get the last ones, the ones who are deep into Canada. And again, a deep debt of gratitude for the instant response from our Canadian friends and the amount of effort that they have put in making sure these folks are brought back home. Any questions of Commissioner Cunningham before we put this to a vote?
Nope.
Hearing none, I'd now call for a motion to approve the request to extend Executive Order 26.08.
So moved.
I now call roll call vote. Attorney General Ellison.
Aye.
Secretary Simon.
Aye.
Audra Blaha.
Aye.
Lieutenant Governor Flanagan.
Aye.
And I, Governor Walz, vote in favor of the motion. The motion carries, and the extension of the peacetime emergency is approved for 30 days. Is there any further discussion from the Executive Council before we adjourn? And I can take a few questions. Audra Blaha, you are recognized.
Thank you, Governor. And I think just deep, deep gratitude to everyone involved. And what's amazing is that this is national, international, state, local, private cooperation here needed to get through this. And one of the things, I think the best line in the executive order, when you look at the bottom of page 1, where it says that we want to help local governments respond and recover. And so we just remember, when the smoke clears, this won't be over. Right? This will simply, as Churchill said, it will perhaps be the end of the beginning. And so we're going to need to continue to make these communities whole. So let's not forget about our local partners after the smoke clears. And let's also remember, too, with the impacts of climate change are coming right to Main Street. These are things that local governments spend a lot of time talking about now, and we're not going to be done. So we just have to be honest with ourselves and realize that this is going to be a new normal, and we need to prepare for it. So again, deep, deep gratitude, and let's show our gratitude by helping with the recovery as well.
And that is appropriate. I put my signature this morning to the authorization for the disaster contingency account, which you will hear me continue to say is one of the smartest things that we have done. I'm grateful to the legislature who's done this. When I talk to other governors, they wish they had it. We don't have to wait for the federal government, which means the state reimburses 75% of these incidents that come up that we can determine for them. So I appreciate the auditor's point on this. We need to make sure it's recovery and an understanding on this. First and foremost, it's protection of life and property, but we also need to recognize the economic impact in northern Minnesota is going to be felt because of the closure of the boundary waters and because of the lack of folks coming into the area, at least for the foreseeable future. So we keep that in mind. Any further questions?
Governor, I'll just add my voice to those thanking first responders, great state agency cooperation, Department of Homeland, Department of Public Safety, DNR, federal partners, and of course our Canadian allies. And so we just recognize the professionalism that you all are approaching this with is how you approach so many issues, and this is just one more of them. So thank you very much.
Grateful. Any further comments from the Executive Council? Hearing none, I call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I now call a roll call vote of each member. Attorney General Ellison.
Aye.
Secretary Simon.
Aye.
Audra Blaha.
Aye.
Lieutenant Governor Flanagan.
Aye.
And I, Governor Walz, vote in favor of the motion. This meeting of the Executive Council is now adjourned. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, Auditor.
Thank you.
I will stick around here for a little bit, and our team will stick around for the questions. And I'll try and repeat the question. Please go ahead.
Governor, could you talk, for those unfamiliar, about the disaster contingency?
Yes.
How that works and how that money is made available to the county?
Yeah, the question was about the disaster contingency account, and what this is this was set up several years ago with the idea we would get these natural disasters, and they could have been things like snowstorms that collapsed a lot of milking parlors in southeast Minnesota. That was one we tended to. The blowdown in Bemidji, flooding, different things. They don't reach the threshold for a disaster emergency at the federal level, but the costs are significant to the local community. So we have made the decision in Minnesota, and the legislature has done so, to fill an account with money that allows these counties or local entities to apply to the state for 75% reimbursement from these events. And this morning I approved several of them in counties that have experienced this throughout the early spring and summer. And we being the state, reimburse 75% of the costs. And a lot of it's cleanup. There are a lot of trees to pick up in Bemidji and things like that. It's smart. It helps show that we're in this together. And I think we all know each part of the state looks out for the other in a way. So that account has money in it. It was put back in again as the start of the new fiscal year on July 1st. So we've got money in that account. We'll use it for that. And it's for things that don't reach the federal threshold and we don't get federal reimbursement. The states still help our local entities. It is just really smart.
Governor, for the Counterwide WCCO, for the YMCA group, are you able to share a little bit more about where they're coming from within Minnesota? And to that end, is there anyone else that is, I know that you also mentioned that there's another group of campers that you're looking to get out.
Let me turn.
Have any of your offices heard of anyone who's missing at the moment? Anyone on account?
Yeah, John Cunningham, Assistant Commissioner. Just to repeat the question, and do we know where the campers are from, and is there anyone else that we know is missing at this time? So I think these campers are from throughout Minnesota. The group that's deeper into Canada, this is mostly teenagers that are more experienced campers, that this is a more advanced excursion that they were on. Most likely this, I hope, will be the excursion of a lifetime for them. But they're in process of being evacuated back to the United States. And as the governor mentioned, this has truly been an incredible partnership. We have great working relationships with our Canadian partners that we work, whether it's the fire service, law enforcement across borders, just to support missions like this. This is certainly very unique, and it required all hands on deck throughout the night. But there were multiple groups, as I mentioned, and St. Louis County Rescue did work overnight to extract some of the other campers. And as the governor noted, I mean, this is very dangerous conditions, and flying the helicopters or trying to get rescuers in there, these conditions change in a moment's notice. But we're very happy to get them back and reunite them with their families, and I'm sure that they will have some stories to tell. So
you're not aware of anyone actively?
Yeah, no, correct.
I would, yeah, and I would make note too, and I think it's for the families who are listening, and again, I don't have the specifics. I will note on this that I am incredibly grateful for the leadership at the YMCA. Glenn Gunderson and his team over there have been on it. It was the safety of these folks first and foremost. We're with experienced people. They have been in contact with us from the very beginning, and so I think folks, again, till they're home, I don't want to get too much ahead of ourselves, but I think for folks who were up all night waiting for news, this was a really good call from Premier Ford. Yes.
Taylor Rivera, WCCO Radio. I just want to confirm the number of fires. I saw reports this morning that there was more than 20, and I just want to confirm those numbers and ask, is this the most simultaneous wildfires that we've seen in the state of Minnesota?
So the current number of active wildfires is 17. You will see various numbers because, as I said, it's a very dynamic situation. So I think yesterday we were at 21 fires. Some of those fires, as they're burning, they're actually merging. Some fires are extinguishing, others are popping up. So that is a dynamic number, which is why I say the information I have is current as of today. In terms of the question regarding, is this the largest number of fires burning at any one time, I would look to Director Thielen to respond to that.
There are a lot more fires than you think, and I think you'll hear that if we can hear some info. On a yearly basis, it's somewhat surprising to people.
Sure. This is not the most fires we've ever had at one time. This is a kind of unusual event for July and an unusual way for fires to start. Most fires in Minnesota are started by humans, by people, over 90%. These fires we think were all caused by lightning. In the past, we haven't had very many fires in the summer. This is a lot of fires to be having during July.
And just remind me your title.
I'm sorry, I'm the Forestry Division Director for the Department of Natural Resources.
national team to contain that?
Yeah, I'll let our teams talk. I will just say, and it's good to have relationships, and I don't know how to stress this enough, that a little disorienting for me. I can pick up the phone and get a Canadian official to answer immediately, and our team here is able to do that. I still think with the professionals are out there, it's not quite as simple right now for me on the national level, which I think is unfortunate. But the coordination is based on these relationships. There are existing agreements, treaties that have been done to do this. And I don't know, John, do you want to talk a little bit about how that works? Because look, this one is, we didn't have the authority, the ability to get up there 175 miles. We needed the Canadian Air Force, and we needed all of their resources. And it took a text, an immediate call around midnight last night, and then a call this morning from the Premier to say, yep, we got it, we're on them, we got them out, we'll have them out for you. That's pretty impressive.
Thanks, Governor. Again, John Cunningham, Assistant Commissioner at DPS. We have longstanding relationships with mutual aid partners, throughout the state, but also because of a bordering country with Canada as well. So what began yesterday afternoon was this discussion. We actually engaged with Minix first on our wildland partners to see what resources we had and to better understand where these campers were. That then extended into the evening, and when we realized just the complexity of this rescue mission, as the governor mentioned, we reached out to Canadian leadership to engage at a higher level. At the same time, our Homeland Security Emergency Management Division works very closely with their counterpart in Canada. So those relationships have been long established. We regularly train with our Canadian partners, just like we do across the state and our state partners as well. So we do have those long-standing mutual aid relationships, and I know for the DNR as well, that has existing mutual aid agreements with other states, other firefighting entities, as well as Canada. So we've exercised this. This is what we train for. This is why we have procedures in place, and those relationships that exist. And it wasn't unfortunately that long ago that we were also we're covering individuals that drowned in the boundary waters, and that also was a relationship between the United States and Canada with the National Guard to assist St. Louis County Rescue in that mission as well. So we're very proud of those relationships, and we will continue those going forward.
Governor, can you speak to kind of the outlook for the rest of wildfire season and how you're preparing to deal with this for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I'm going to turn it to the experts. I think always it's prudent in this to assume that this is going to continue on. There'd be no reason not to think that. And I think it's, again, because it's so early, this is a little bit different than normal. But
I'll just say, and I can certainly turn to Director Thielen for some more details about how her division is thinking about this. But from the department view, as I said earlier, we expect to be at these fires for quite some time. We are not seeing relief in the weather, unfortunately, and we are dry across the state. So we're going to continue to focus the resources in the Northeast. Again, focus on protecting life and property. That is first and foremost. As I said, though, into our planning, we have to consider that the entire state is dry and has fire conditions that we need to be aware of. And so our planning will start to consider that. We cannot have all of our resources so dedicated to one spot that we don't have resources to deploy elsewhere. I will also say, again, because we have national mutual aid, we are part of a national wildland fire system. Minnesota currently is priority 3. We just became priority 3 in the country yesterday. And so that frees up some more national resources for us as well. So that helps us think about how we plan and deploy those resources across the state. So we are in this for the long haul. We are, have teams on the ground that are dealing with the immediate situations while we are also keeping our eye on the rest of the summer and what may come. I don't know, Director Thielen, if you have more you want to add.
Sure, thanks, Commissioner. We don't have a crystal ball to be able to see the weather. a long 2-week slow rain would be great. That would calm things down quite a bit, but that doesn't appear to be expected currently in the weather patterns, and so it could very well be we're having significant fires throughout the summer until we have snow. Snow will be a good thing. We really appreciate all of the different coordination within DNR. We have folks who work in other divisions besides forestry that are putting on yellow shirts and green pants and helping our foresters and firefighters suppress these fires as well as handle incidents in their local areas. We work with other state agencies and with local governments, and we're really thankful for that. And we work with federal agencies throughout the year so that we're well trained and can work together when these things happen. It's going to be a long stretch if this continues, and it's going to mean resources will be fairly tight.
To that note, it seems these past couple of years there have been frequent exceptional wildfire events. Dating back the last 5 years, I think at least a couple of them we've had these same conversations. Is this stretching DNR or public safety resources thin at all, or if this continues this pattern or wildfire seasons, will it into the future?
Thanks. I've worked for the Department of Natural Resources for over 30 years, and 30 years, and you're absolutely right. For most of my career, we have a spring fire season for 6 or 8 weeks in the spring, and sometimes a fall fire season for a month or two. Over the last 5 or 6 years, we've begun to have more fires throughout more months of the year, so in the summer and earlier in March and February. It has become challenging because our division uses a lot of staff that they do something else besides work fire most of the year. They might collect forest inventory or work with private forest landowners, and then when things like this happen, they pivot and become a firefighter. To have this amount of work this much of the year, it gets to be stressful, and it's hard to ensure we have enough resources trained up to the levels that we need them to handle leadership positions in fire suppression.
Is there any, for the layman, is there any guesstimate of we'll see containment at some time, or is it just too soon to tell on that?
I think some of the fires already are contained. I think that will continue.
I would just say it's dynamic at this point. We're not going to speculate. Yeah. I think Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you again, Bob Jacobson, Commissioner of Public Safety. I just wanted to follow up on the question about resources and being in for the long haul, and just to echo the comments that have been made already. Our system is designed, and we are here in the State Emergency Operations Center, which, again, thanks to the governor and our legislature who supported the funding to build this facility, and we have the staff to come into this. What the State Emergency Operations Center is designed to do is to help support those that are out in the field that are doing this work, whether it be flood season. We have certainly had significant numbers of floods. We now are in the fire season. There will be something else. We are in the theater of seasons, and there are a lot of other things that are going on in the state of Minnesota. The State Emergency Operations Center and the system that we're working under is designed to make sure to take into account and to do our very best to make sure that we are staffed and ready to go for the long haul. We rely on our partners and the partnerships and the relationships, too, that we have across the state of Minnesota and across the nation. There is a process in place also if we need staffing across the country to come here to help with these situations. Hopefully we don't need to request that through this process, but we are designed to do that. And I will tell you, not only the DNR staff and those that are out there, but the Department of Public Safety staff in the state of Minnesota, as I mentioned, we are all in this for this fight, whether it's all summer long or not. We are here to make sure that we're taking care of Minnesotans, and we're doing the very best that we can. And I am just eternally grateful for the work that people are doing, and I'm very thankful that so far we have not had any significant injuries and certainly nothing worse. So we'll continue on.
Another one here?
Got it on topic.
You want to hold that then?
Sure.
Just given the severity of this, of course, vacation might sound trivial, but there will be a lot of people who had camping plans for the rest of the summer. Is the summer over in the boundary waters at this time? Does it feel like there's any chance of that actually?
Good question.
Well, I certainly think the summer is going to be changed for a lot of people. Whether the summer is over, again, I think we're in a very dynamic situation. We can't speculate. It is the U.S. Forest Service that manages the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness, so they issued the closure. I know they are looking at that very closely. When is it safe to reopen? I know they also are looking, really hard at the business impacts that the governor noted, right? There's a lot of outfitters up there. A lot of folks are very close partners with the Forest Service and DNR in terms of providing that wilderness experience. So, they will balance all of those things, and I'm confident they will reopen it as soon as they feel it's safe to do so. But I think it's fair to say summer's changed in that part of the state.
One more, then we'll off topics. Well, I'll let these guys go then. We got to go, so appreciate it. I know you got work to do. Thanks.
Do you have an approximate number of rescues that have been made so far?
So the question is the approximate number of rescues so far. I don't have that now. Things are so dynamic. We've been very intentional about letting the rescuers really do their work and then report out. We'll probably start to get some of that intel coming later today. I know on the first day there was a handful as evacuations were ongoing to get people out of the boundary water, so that effort will continue. And we will continue, I know, with our local partners to fly drones, to do aircraft missions, just to make sure that everyone is out of that area, especially as things, and the commissioner mentioned too, is this wildland urban interface. And what that really is when you have the wild, densely forested areas up against residential neighborhoods. And that's really where our, from a local fire department standpoint, we have firefighters across the state that are mobilized right now in the communities working alongside the DNR and our federal partners to protect those homes and those residents, because we recognize that people are being displaced out of a precautionary measure so far. So we will certainly continue to monitor those conditions, but then to deploy, firefighters as needed. So I think more information to come, but I know our air rescue team is on standby, ready to do missions. They'll remain stationed there alongside our Air National Guard partners as well.
John,
Yeah.
I think it's important just to recognize there's a difference too between rescue and evacuation, and so there's a public safety message here. The reason that safety officials implement those ready, set, go is so that we can avoid rescue missions. The goal is to give people notice, give people time to get out of the way of a wildfire, a dangerous situation before we need to go in and rescue. Obviously, the situation with these campers in Canada, they were so far in, fire changed very quickly. Ontario is also battling very extreme fire conditions. It was not that easy to evacuate. But I think it is, again, I just would like to repeat the plea for folks to very carefully follow those local instructions around the ready, set, go warning, so that we can evacuate people orderly and safely and avoid the need for rescue missions.
Great. Thank you all. Appreciate it. I know you're back to work. Yeah. Yes.
Governor, I just wonder if you'd like to respond to the president's endorsement of my Governor.
Well,